Okay, so now the meeting is in recording. Okay, right. So again, I'll start from first. We created a workspace, we created a collection. Now we are trying to add a request. Now trying to add a request, if you already know the API, you can just come and give your API endpoints in here and then execute. You should be, if the API endpoint is right, it's going to execute. Now, you may have a question, what is an API endpoint? What am I talking about? So let's go to one simple example. Now, this is how an API looks like initially. So let's also remove this. There are a few things that we have to know before we land up executing, doing the tests for this API. What is it? The first one is the API method. Each API is nothing but a bunch of functions that is written as a code to perform certain actions. And what are those actions? It can get, which basically means you just have to get the data according to my requirement, or post, which means you create and add in some data, put, which means you're gonna edit or add more details to the endpoint that you're trying to communicate with. And delete is basically you want to do some deletion or removing actions. So we have many methods. We call it as API methods. And this is a very important. If you choose a wrong method, the API may not work. And how do we get to know this method in my usual testing? We get to know this through API documentation. When a developer develops an API, he prepare a documentation explaining what this API will do, and he will also say what are the methods that's supported through this API. So looking at the document you can do. So in this is the API request that I have, and then what you see, this is called as an endpoint. Most of the time, this URL remains constant. Only what varies in the whole bunch of an API in your company would be this endpoint. So this endpoint, as the name suggests, it does some searching. Now let's see what happens when I just do the send here. Oh, something is working and something is displayed here. Now this part of the screen is, I'm sorry, I can't add you. I got a join request, but you can fork my collection anytime, which I'll be showing you in a few minutes. So if you see, this is the body, which is called the response body. When I execute this API, it basically goes and hits to the door, which gets me all the information that I'm trying to search. What is this? This API will get you the list of all the universities available in the world. Now that's a little too much, isn't it? Now I want to search for a particular college, but then if I have so many details that's coming, how will I choose a particular data to show in my UI? Let's also see that. Before moving on to that, let's just see some other topics, which is like headers. Let me go to the amazon.com. So what I did is I basically used, so for the benefit of the people who don't know the use of a network tab, when you go into any URL, simply go to the inspect element and choose the network tab. Network tab shows you all the endpoints or all the functions that will be called in here to do the job. So if you see, this endpoint is called through the get method, and this is a state code, and this has been fetched from somewhere, blah, 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 all those things. Now I will clear, and we'll see what happens when I just search. We see there's so many endpoints being communicated just to fill details here. And all these details that you're seeing on top of the screen UI is being fed through the APIs that you see in this network tab. So if you pick up any of these endpoints to see, there are some things that remains common, which is the request. Hello. Can you please mute yourself, or you have something to share with the team? Okay. So then you see something called request headers. This has no request headers, but then we'll look at this. Request headers. What is a request header in an API? These header carries some details to communicate with the backend. Some can be cookies, some can be about type of the content that you are trying to. You're talking about the origin. Origin is nothing but from where this request is coming, and our request is coming from amazon.nl. And who is the referrer of this request? It is amazon.nl. So this header information is passed. Why is this important? These header information becomes important when you're trying to communicate with multiple other software products, and there will be some decisions or some changes being made based on these header details as per the requirement. So these header details can be anything. Some header details can be only limited to few details, and some can really grow in depth. So depending on the implementation. This header also tell you what method it is, which is a post method. And then we give you from which type of system or a platform it's coming from, and whether it is cross-site applicable, all these details. Now, translating this to my Postman, you have something called headers here. So if you go for the headers, you should be able to see all the headers that is being passed as a part of your request. So in my request, what are the headers being passed? It's the details about the server, date, type of the content. Type of a content says what type of data you're passing. More or less, most of the applications nowadays are using JSON, which is JavaScript object notation, because it is easier to understand. This tells about the length of the content and then blah, blah, all other details. Does this matter to you in your usual day-to-day testing? Yes and no. If it is an internal simple APIs that you're trying to communicate between a UI, some functions to the database, and then you work your way around to the UI, this may not be for much of an interest to you. But if you're from an e-commerce background, insurance background, banking background, where the multiple other softwares are there, then this is very important, and you may have to write some tests on these header details as well. So now that is headers, and this is a body, what we call as a response. I would like to draw your attention towards this response body. If you see, the response is designed in a specific way. There is some detail here and then some detail here. And if you see, the same discipline is followed, or the same structure is followed in all the details that is being passed. So this is one object. So which means whenever we pass the details, it is a commitment or an understanding to the wider team that, you know what, when I pass the data, I am going to pass in this manner, which is a key and a value. So if you want to access this key, then you get this value. So this is a common understanding. And that's what it says in the JavaScript object notation. So this is a common understanding, like I said. If I am passing the details in this way, I don't have to educate a UI developer or some other outside developer how they have to read my data. So they know my response will be in the JSON format, and all my details will be provided in this way. So you have anything to ask or anything to see within my response, you can see it here in this format. I'll give you a key and the detail field for that key. You can get the value and put it in your UI. That's the common understanding. I hope you guys are with me till now. You have any questions, feel free to ask. So we spoke about the methods. We spoke about the endpoints. Any questions there? Okay.
What kind of testing we should do for header parts?
Yeah. Okay. So sometimes companies may not just use JSON, but they may also use XML as a data format. And they may you may have to check for specific cookies when you're working within a company infrastructure and a more serious development happening. I'm pretty sure most of the companies will be using cookies, and then you can check if certain cookies are filled in, especially when there is a conversation, cross conversation happening. Vishwanath, you have something to say? Okay. And you can also check or restrict the content. If the size of the content is too huge, you can also say, okay, these are not something that is allowed, or put some checks across it. So some of these are some small examples I can give, but it can go much beyond this. It's not restricted just to this. It can go much beyond this. Did that answer?
A question.
Yes.
Is it also necessary to, let me rephrase that. At what point are you going to test for authentication and authorization?
Right. So that's a good question. You may be a little ahead of the session. Just give me a few minutes. I'll be just coming in to that point.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right. So we are good in here. Okay. So this is a GET request. We got the details here in the body, and fine. Yeah. Now what? What should I be doing after getting the GET request? Is it all my job as a tester that I give the endpoints, I see the body? Yeah, well, I'm good. No, this is where the actual job starts. Now, what was done was the developer's job. He had created an endpoint. He had ensured you will be served with the details. But now, as a tester, check if the right details have been served in the right format to you. So that is where this is the place where you write your test. Just try to ignore what's in here already. We will do it together. But then I would like to draw your attention to the space where you can just write your test code. Now, one unique point of Postman is that most of these tests are easily cooked and made available to you, and you did not have to learn everything from the scratch to do your testing. So even if you're an absolute beginner and don't understand any way to write a code like Rest Assured or Super Test clients, then just create a user in the Postman, create your collection, add in the endpoints, and you know what? I want to check the status code. I want to check whether my API is working or not. So then I can just click in here. The code is added for you. What this test do is it'll check if the status code is 200 or not. What is the status code? Are we seeing this 200 somewhere? Yes, here. So what is this? This is something that I missed mentioning earlier. Every API, when it is developed, will also be supported with the response status. These response status say, or some codes which says whether it was successful, was it unsuccessful, are you the right person with the right authorizations, is there any problem with the server, is there any problem with the request you're sending. There are so a lot of information that will be shared through these response codes. These response code, if you just go to the Google and just check HTTP response codes, you will find a lot of information everywhere to find what these, what each of these response codes speaks to you. Because it takes a lot of time to run through all of these, I would keep it short to let you know anything which starts with 1 is nothing but some information, a response that's being passed to you. Anything which starts with 2, which means it is successful. Sometimes it is 200, sometimes it is 201, sometimes it's 204. So anything which starts with 2, which means it was successful and the API endpoint worked. Whether the API endpoint got you the right results is not something of a promise, but the API worked. That's what it says. Anything with 300 means redirection. What is a redirection? You are a business owner. You start a company called makemybrow.com, let's say. And for some reason, after 2 years, you realize, no, it doesn't sound so good. I want to make it goldenbrow.com. So all your API endpoints should move from makemybrow.com, goldenbrow.com, which means there is a redirection happening to all your web pages in the web server, correct? So when these redirections should be supported from an old URL to a new URL, usually these 300s is used, which basically means you are clicking onto the old URL and I am moving you to the new URL it is being connected to. And then is 400, which is mostly about the client errors. Now, who is the client? I am a client. If you are a person who's sitting in front of your computer, giving some URLs, then you are the client. Now, who is a server? It's a web server who processes your request. and gives back the response according to the query that you have made. So any errors from that side is given or starts with 5. This is all you have to remember. You can take some time to get into the details of each of these, maybe after the session, and familiarize yourself. So now let's see this. What is 200? Like I discussed, it's everything about success. When I executed this endpoint, it worked well and it gave me the results. You're seeing the results. That's what it says. And every API takes some time. This is mostly something which, when you work on a performance testing for the APIs, now it's not the right.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, if there is any error in URL, then what code it will be showing?
So if there is an error in the URL, depends on what type of response is they 404, if because it is a wrong request that you have been making. Let us say I will do it 787, and then you
Leica is 404.303 and 404 and 503 internal server error.
So
40,
sorry, go ahead.
usually show this.
Yeah.
If any server error, usually show this 404 and 503 server error, and 504 I also bad gateway request, and 502 also gateway request. These are also server errors.
Yes. So it can be mostly is 404, which means the API endpoint does not exist, or we were not able to find the API endpoint that you are trying to reach, which is search 787. It doesn't exist. Sorry, I can't do anything. So it says 404.
When you, I know that
Hello?
you're recording, will you be able to send out the recording after the meeting?
Sure, I'll try to upload it. I don't have a YouTube channel, but then I'll definitely upload it.
Okay, so I have a question.
अपना kindly mic off कर दें यार, पीछे से ब्रेनी की आवाज आ रही है यार. What is that यार?
If you don't mind.
So my question is, you just mentioned the status codes. So are these the generic one, or the developers sometimes mod, like the developer can mod the status code, like just to mention 200, 300, 400, 500. And before that, someone else mentioned that we also receive 503, which is also sometimes linked to the server side. So a developer can mod the status codes or not? Or will these be the generic or the standard HTTP status codes? Thank you.
So for your question, there are some standard response codes available, which a developer can make use already, and he need not have to reinvent the entire wheel for himself. But if this is something that is specific and they have to communicate with the specific responses, then they can create their own status codes and status responses as well. So it usually starts with 5 if it is with regards to the server. It usually starts with 4 if it is with regards to client error. And if it is anything with regards to the success, then you have to start with 2. So that's a general understanding. You have to stick.
Hi, Sonia, can I have a question? Yes, it's about which is the use case to use the API proxies?
Okay, I think I can definitely answer your question. Is it okay if we park it till the end of the session?
Hello.
Hello?
I think people need to be careful when in the online meetings, because they should be careful when they're using the mic. Please mute your mic because it's just a 1-hour session. So we need to make sure we cover everything.
Thank you so much. So I will continue.
Madam, I have one question, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Actually, I'm a fresher. What is the difference between web server, API and web server service, ma'am? Servers?
Good question.
Can I answer this? Can I answer this?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Basically, web API is an application programming interface, and web services is like as like us do that so as a part of services. If you go to a hotel, okay, you want to have some food, okay. Hello.
People are listening. Go ahead.
If you want to food and hello.
Hello. Carry on, bro. Carry on.
वो मेरा कहने का मकसद है यार आप किसी होटल में जाते हैं
Hello.
So is it okay if you can park your questions to the end so that for the benefit of the wider group? And I'm also trying how I can mute all of you so that I can open up the Q&A after some time.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Like if you could find a way to mute everyone and.
Yeah, I'm just checking where that option is in the Zoom. So guys, please hold on your questions until the end and let's just go with the flow because I see this of them are new and they may miss on so many things if we jump the guns. So let's not do that. Now getting back to where I was.
Excuse me, ma'am. I think you should answer this APIs and what is web services difference because he is a fresher.
Yes.
Yeah, now I am fresh.
Yeah. So I think basically, bro, in simple world, all web services are APIs, but all APIs are not web services. It's just simple difference. It's just simple difference. In simple words and simple difference, all APIs are not web services, but all web services are APIs. Okay.
Why, bro? What is the difference between API and a web services? All APIs are web server, but web server is not API. Why?
Can someone help me how to mute the rest of the participants?
So I guess you can check
bro,
it in
hold your
bro,
hold your question until you're and everyone mute mic. It's very
you will get the option. You will get the option in meeting setting to.
I will answer you, bro. I will answer you and out of the meeting. Okay.
Go in meeting setting and then mute everyone.
Yeah, in
Okay,
settings,
so ma'am, you
go
continue,
for
ma'am.
click all participants.
Ma'am, you continue, please.
And click on
I will
mute
answer,
all.
bro, until the meeting, end of the.
Do you got it? How to mute all?
I missed you.
Ma'am, you continue, ma'am.
Soumya, I have a suggestion. First of all, don't share your screen. Oh, share your screen and I think open the Zoom client on your screen so that we can all see what's happening on your Zoom client, and then we can redirect you how to mute all the participants, because on your screen, are you using 2 monitors? Yeah, now that's fine.
Okay, so just a second, you have to find me in the Zoom client.
Now, if anyone knows how to mute everyone, then they can.
In the Zoom, and I'll go back to meeting and I do the setting audio.
So may just try Alt M, Alt plus M.
I'm using Mac. So do you have any suggestions for the Mac for shortcuts?
To click on participants, and then you would have mute all option as a host, I think.
Yes, I have shared the procedure in the steps in the chat. You can.
Soumya, can you open the participants tab?
Yes, I have opened the participants tab. Okay, oh, sorry. I'm coming to the wrong tab for you. Yeah, okay, just let's not waste time on this. I want to share everything that's possible from me. So I believe and trust you guys. Wait until the Q&A session. Let's go ahead because it's already 6:40 and I don't want to keep you on hold for a lot of time. Okay,
continue, ma'am, please.
Status codes, this is very important, and please remember this is the basic testing that at least you can do as a part of API. You're a complete fresher, set of APIs is thrown at you and you want to do API testing, you don't know where to start, you have to start with status. So basically,
ma'am, you continue, please.
Yeah, I'm continuing. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
The idea here is to just at least check if your API is working. When you execute an API, it should never give you anything with 400s. 400s simply means error. So anything which returns with 200s or starting with 2 is just fine. So which means the API is working. That much is fine. But anything beyond this, if the API is returning the right data or not, is it taking a long time? Is it passing the HTTP or HTTPS, blah, 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 etc. There's so many tests that you can add on top of this. So first thing that you should be checking as part of your API test is status 200. And maybe some part of it also time. So moving forward in your API testing journey, there comes a time when you may also have to do the performance testing. So 8 years down the line in the software testing career or as an API tester, you may also have to do performance testing for each of these APIs because it matters a lot. An API cannot take 2 minutes to return or render a data. A developer's challenge is also if he has to pass through 1 million of the data, million parts of the records, and still just have to give you 5 records out of the million records, he has to find a way to write an efficient program to search for this data. So, and your job as a tester is to know that this is being rendered within the agreed time limits. So now this is something that is defined by your solution architect. And so you can also add tests based on this time. Size is about the size that is being given as part of your response body. There will be restrictions on the size that can be rendered as part of your response through an API endpoint. So this is also important for you because if an API is sending boatload of data, which cannot be handled in any way, then there is no point in having that API. It serves no purpose. And these are something that will be defined by your solution architect, and you have to work very closely with them in your day-to-day test activities to know what is the limit that you have to test. Failure of these things is also a failure of an API. So just remember that.
I have one question.
Please, can we park until the end if you don't mind? Just for the benefit.
I don't mind. Just one question, please.
No, till the end, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. So now before moving on to anything else, let's do one thing. That is forking. Postman have this option of forking. What is a forking? Just like you have a GitHub where you can go to somebody's repository and then just take it as part of your own local IDE to work. Likewise, you also have that. You just have to. So let me share this link with you in the chat. Let's do this exercise together. Okay. To share it with everyone and then, okay. So just go to that link. You should be able to see my public repository. This is my public repository. And then you see something like this, like a fork, like a spoon or whatever, fork symbol. When you click on that, it enables you to provide some name. This name can be anything that makes sense to you. So meetup fork, something which you can recognize later, and then location. This is very important. Now, we created a workspace, we created a collection, you remember, and we made that workspace as public. So choose that workspace where you want to fork it. For me, it is the workspace of Meetup workspace, which I did, and then I do fork collection. When I do the fork collection, it just gets copied into my workspace, and I will be able to see all the APIs under this collection. Thank you, Gagan, for giving me the link. I'll keep this in mind for my next call. Okay, so I have starred 3 collections for your hands-on. hands-on. This is the collection that I will be working through in this session. This is the collection that you can take home to do your hands-on training. This is also the place. Okay, let me show you from first. So you see this part called documentation. When you click here, you will be able to see all the details with regards to this collection, how to execute this collection, what are the APIs that is part of this collection. When I go to the specific API, I have given you the tryout challenge. So whatever we do as a part of this session, please go back whenever you have time, try to take up this challenge and try to do it in your own IDE. If you're stuck somewhere, I have tried to give some solutions here as well. So try not to see the solution, do it all by yourself, just in case if you're lost, then see the solution. And at the end, we'll also see how to run this entire collection. All right, so. Anushka, Akanksha, I'll try to upload it in the YouTube for you if you want the recording, don't worry. Right. So until what we saw was a GET request. A GET request, by and large, do not need any authorization. Most of the times, it's a harmless request because you just want to read some data, you want to get some data. So there's nothing malicious activity that you will be doing as a part of the GET. So it doesn't ask for any authorization, by and large. But if it is any internal API and it is a very preserved data due to the GDPR acts, you have to conserve the user's data, ensuring it is not being used for malicious activities. In those cases, even the GET requests will be driven by the authorization. We are almost there. We are coming to that concept. So in APIs, there are 4 actions: create, update, delete, and read. What we did now was read. Now we will see create. What is the create? You can add some details into the DB by executing this API. And this is a very important API because it helps you to create new details into your DB records. Now, if that is the case, how do we execute post request? So first you have to choose the method post, and then you have to use your endpoint. Well, that is good. Is this just enough to do or post the data? Well, no, because we are trying to add the data. So where is this data being mentioned? It is mentioned as a part of the body. This is called as a payload. The key term for this is payload. This will also be as a part of JSON structure. Like you see, it is between the 2 curly brackets. It has a key and also details. And how will I know what should I pass as a part of the body? You will know what you should pass as a part of the body from your API documentation. It will be clearly mentioned if you want to post a new DB or a new record into your database. These are the mandatory details that you have to send, and these are the optional details you have to send. That's basically translate your primary keys in your DB and some optional fields in your DB. So if I had to create a new user, then I have to follow this structure. Basically, I have to give a name, and then I have to give some email ID. And then I have to give a gender and then a status. So let's try to execute. I will save this and then let's try. Let's see what happens. Oh, I got 401. Why is this 401? It says I'm unauthorized. So any error or any response codes which starts with 4, like I said, that means there's something wrong which the client has done. Who is the client? Me, because I'm the one who's executing it through my Postman, right? So I've done something wrong. What is wrong here? I am unauthorized. So I need the authorization to execute this. Right. So to get this authorization, what can I do? Like I already mentioned, there are multiple ways how an authorization can be managed for an API. An API key, OAuth, basic auth. Basic auth is nothing but your username and password. OAuth is a place where you generate a unique token every time, and then you place it here so that you can work across your API. But in my case, I will just say a bearer token. I will show you how this is created, and I will save these details. Now, I will take you to this place where you can create your own token. Go to the gores.co.in, from where I am taking this API. So this is a place. You have to create a user. I already have my user, I suppose. Yeah. So first you have to create here your user, and then you can have your API, your API tokens. When I come here, I can create a new access token for myself, which will be provided here. I simply have to copy this and then paste it as a part of the token. And now let us see what happens. Voila, it worked. You see, the status is 201. Anything which starts with 2 is a success. 99% of the cases, when you create a new data or a record, you will be served with 201. This is a generic understanding. But sometimes you also land up seeing 200, which is fine because it says it is a success. Okay. Swati Priya, what do you want me to repeat? Is it about the tokens? Okay, so the post method is usually used to create a new record in your database, and you can also you will be able to create a new record by making use of the endpoints. So in this case, the endpoint is users, and then 100% of the cases, for most of the post operations, you have to be authorized to access their DB. And to do that, you have to go, yes, the bearer token, and then you have to put your bearer token in here. And then when you do the send request, you should be able to see, oh, now I am seeing another error. What is this error? So the body is already letting me know that has already been taken. So which means
Unprocessable token.
Yeah, so which basically means I'm trying to create another record with the same details, which is not allowed in the DB. So I have to change something. And then execute works. So now we will try to add some tests for this post script. Okay. We will go to the test. Now, what is a generic thing that we usually check? The first thing that we do is a status 200. Let me go here and just click. It gets added. This time I will change something. Oh, my test is failing. That's why my test is failing. My test is failing because I am checking status 200, whereas the success status here is 201. So let's change it to 201. But every time I execute, I have to ensure I'm giving a unique record. So let me change again. There you go. My test is passing. So here I am checking that I am executing the API, the record is created, and I am served with right status. Well, when you are executing hundreds of APIs, you cannot keep typing the same link every time again and again. Is there any way that you can reuse this? You can reuse the link so that you don't have to keep typing the URL. Sorry?
Global environment.
Yes, of course. Yes, that's a very good answer. Global variable, you can create a variable. And in Postman provides you 3 types of variables. 1, as your global variable, which you mentioned. 2 is your collection variable. What is the difference between a global and a collection variable is, this is a collection. If I create a collection variable, that variable is accessible to all the APIs, which is part of this collection. But if I create a global variable, Then if you have a sub collections, it is also available for the sub collections and other APIs available. Then you have something like environment variables. Click here, you can add a new environment variable. And then you can give a name. Usually it is base URL. This is a common naming term usually used when you do testing. And what is my URL that I want to keep common? It is this. So I simply copy this, go to my environment and give it in my initial value as well as in the current value, it gets copied automatically. Are you guys with me till here?
No.
No, I'll take the question answers in the last. And now please, please ensure to give a name for this environment. Let me say it as Meetup, just so I know I have to use for the Meetup, and then I will save. So this details will be saved. So whenever, well, I created a variable, I have given the URL. Will I be able to use it directly? Yes. And how do I do that? You will be able to do it using double flower brackets and then giving the URL name. It says unresolved. Why does it say unresolved when I have created the URL and filled the name with it? Because we're using environment variable, one thing we have to keep in mind that it should always be activated. That means this is my environment collection, a variable collection that I created. So I have to keep it active. So now when I do that, you will be able to see the details about this variable. You will be able to see everything for this. Now let's try and execute. At least I should get an error. Well, yeah, that's a valid error because I am trying to create the same details again and again. I will change it and then I'll try to execute. Cool, my test is working. Now, so we added a test and we are checking the state. But is this enough for your testing? No, it may not be enough. So you may have to do something more than that. What is it? Now, I would like to test that that my ID is not empty. When I create a record, I should be served back with an ID. All right, let us see that. How? So that means this is the body, response body, and you are trying to check something in the response body. So let me declare a constant with some name is equal to PM is nothing but post, and then response dot. Why should I do this? When you do this, the entire response will be, the response section is accessible to this variable for you. And it makes all the more easier for you to interact with the details that is available and add some more tests in there. Now, you see something called response body JSON value check. Here, the test is automatically added for me. So which means here what it is trying to do is it's trying to get the response body. This is exactly what I have done here. I will try to remove this line because I'm already fetching the details here. And because it is outside, it can be accessed by all the functions available. All right. So here I want to check ID is not empty. Okay, so that is my check. I am using an assertion. Expect is an assertion library, and I am using JSON data value. No, but my results are available in this variable. Let me do res here. And is it, what is the value that we are trying to access is ID. So now we'll go here and then we'll change it to ID. Are we checking ID should be 100? No, we are trying to check to not be empty. So what do you think? Is it gonna work? Let's try. Oh, my test is failing. ID is not empty. That means I have done to be, or let's say, I'm checking what assertion I can put into this. Is not null. Again, I'm gonna have to change the body because it has to be. So let's do something and then pass. Good, it worked. So which means I am checking this API, whether it's working fine. Status code 200, that is a problem with my name function. It should be status code 201. Then I'm checking if the ID is not empty. Yes, ID is not empty. So which means both my tests are passing and this API is just working fine. Now, like I told you, some part of the URL will repeat again and again. So that is the reason why we have to use parameterization by making use of the variables. We replaced the base URL with a variable called base URL. I will take you to another get statement, which pretty much uses the same URL. So can we just replace it? Let's see what this gives me. Right, so this is giving me set of all the users that I have created over a period of time. Right, so there are a few improvements I can definitely do here. First thing, I remove this and then make base URL and check if on hovering this, am I able to see the URL? Yes, I'm able to see. This is my endpoint. When I do send, I should be able to see the same details all over again. And now is the time that I can add tests here, correct? So I can come here, go to my status 200, just add the test, just ensure the test is working. Yes, one by one, it is passing. Then now, this is a very important concept I would like to tell, which is with regards to the response body. If you see the response body, it is the same set of details, what we call it as object, is repeating itself, but with the different details, correct? Now, if you want to check the JSON value, it becomes more tricky because what we see here is an array of these objects. Now, in your usual day-to-day testing, this is a common scenario, very common scenario. You will not get just one JSON object, but you may get hundreds of JSONs object, and then you may have to work your way across that. So let's take this challenge and we will see how to do that. All right. Now, there is one other thing that we can do is checking the schema. In the meanwhile, just a second. Let me find that test and then add from here. You see here, response time less than, I mentioned about the performance testing. In that case, you can make use of this function where it checks the overall time taken for the response is lesser than 200 milliseconds or the time that you want to be checked for. Okay. Now, this is a little complex, but I definitely want you guys to understand this because this may come into your usual day-to-day testing and also will be asked in your API interviews pretty commonly because in the real world scenario, what you come across is not just one object, but it is an array of objects. And then you may have to parse through each of these objects to find a particular record and then work your way along with that record. So now we will do two things here. One, we will check the schema. What is a schema? Schema is nothing but it explains you the structure of the response. Here, a response will have an ID, a name, an email address, gender, and status. This is my structure. All my response detail will have these fields available, and it is repeated over. So this is called a schema. That means pretty much like a structure. So let me build the schema here. So if you see, ID is integer. And then because it's all numbers, so we can confirmly say it should be a number. And then we have name, it is of the type string. And then we have field, which should also be of the type string. And then what we have is gender. Again, it is string. And then what you see is a status, which again is string. What is a string? It is nothing but a collection of characters. Small a to b, capital A to small a to z, and capital A to z. The collection of it is called a string, basically words. Okay. All right. So this is how my response is coming, and each of my response will have these many number of fields available. That is what I am telling. But this is not item. I think this has no names. And then this is not required because we already have the data and we will work with our data. We need this method because we have to check if the schema is valid. And then this is going to remain constant. We are going to validate response, not like this, because we have a nested structure or array, which means the same detail is repeating again and again. It is called an array, and you may have to yourself along with the for each loop. Is for each loop new to most of you here? Or have you worked your way before? So what we'll do is we'll do the response. That's where our response is coming from. And then we have for each. This means for each of the response that is being done in this response body, I am fetching here one by one. I'll tell you what happens here. So for each of the response that is coming is fed into this data. So how many I have? I may have some 100 here. But when I do for each, first it will pick up this one. And then it will put it into data. Now I have access to the first one, which means I have access to ID, I have access to name, email, gender, status of the first record. And I can place my test for this first record. And I can continue to do the test for the rest of all the records to do the checking. So that is how we do with the response body. For each, you put single data every time. That means each object one at a time. And then you can work your way with each data. Expect is an assertion library. You're going to validate what you want to validate. You want to validate the response. No, you want to validate the data with the schema, which means now what data has? Data has this. When it runs for the first time, it has this. So you're validating if this matches to the structure of this. If it is not matching, then it is wrong. If it matches, then it will execute successfully. So now the question is, why should you check the schema? Sometimes it is very important to ensure all details available in or all details are passed through the API. It's quite common and natural when there is enhancements happening within an API or some old developer goes and new developer comes in, there are some changes happening in the API. There is possibility that some details get eliminated or get deleted without somebody's notice or due to multiple changes happening. So just to keep your eye towards it and just to ensure that the response body is not missing any details out of it, you have to check the schema. This is a very important test that you can do. And the good part is you don't have to work a lot. You can just copy paste the code by clicking here, loop through each of the data and validate whether your data is matching the schema. What other, the other type of assertions you can also do is, since you're already working through this data, you can do data dot ID. I'll just do this, expect data dot ID to not be null. That means every ID to be filled. If an ID is empty, which means your DB can cause a catastrophic error. So that is the reason why you have to keep iterating over the ID to check. Most of the times this ID is filled, enough precautionary measures are taken, but it need not always be ID. You can check maybe name. Name should be a character, name should be filled, or an email, email is mandatory filled. You can put any of these tests according to the need. So this is how you can achieve a nested or an array objects and work through each of these objects and add your tests. So TP4 is something that is already provided by the Postman as a part of their functions or a library. So it comes automatically and you don't have to worry about it. Maybe it's a part of their function which they are providing. Are you guys not able to see my screen where I'm typing?
Yes, I can able to see.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So now we saw how to make it as a environment variable, how to keep our environment variable active, and then how to post the user. I want to show you one more thing, which is very important for you as well, is how to save the details into environment. What do I mean by this? So what happens, let me first create a simple variable here and let me say it as user ID. And then I won't give any value because I am filling this value programmatically. Now, ID is not something that is I create. When I post the record, DB decides what is the ID for that record, correct? So if I have to do that, then let me go here. I have to do something. What is it? I have to set an environment variable. To set an environment variable, I can come here and then set a collection variable, set an environment variable. I'll do this. All right. So it's Postman, environment, it's accessing the environment, and I am doing the set of some variable. What is a variable that I just created? User ID. Let me just put in here, user ID. But remember, always have I typed it right? And then I want to save the value. So the value, I get it from the response body, which is there here. and I want to access ID. So where is it? It is under response because I'm collecting under this constant response dot. And what is it I want? ID. So just say ID. So what I'm trying to tell here is when I execute and create a new record, please set the environment variable user ID with my records that has been created with this ID, and I may have a future purpose of this. So please do that. And that's what exactly I'm telling. What I'm worried is why is it not being, okay, let's just execute and see what happens. If it fails, we'll fix it. Before to that, remember, I may have to give a very unique details and send. All right, my tests are passing. It's showing 201, but is my environment variable filled up? Let's go and check. Yeah, it's been filled. 11653, 11653. Now, when your environment variable is filled up, but did you observe what has happened? It simply has created a new environment variable along with the flower brackets. So it should be without the quotes, and then just execute. Email taken. All right, let me work my way. Good.
Flower brackets are not needed.
Sorry?
Flower brackets are not needed. Like
in the test, yeah, you can remove the flower brackets and keep it in the double quotes.
Okay. But still it creates a new one, right? The class.
No.
Every time. No, I mean, because it was created, I simply has to, thank you. So yes, you were right. So we can simply mention the variable name between the quotes, and then access the details that we want from the response body and store it as part of the environment variable, which you can see. Now, in your future tests, if there is a need that you want to pull in the details of this particular user with the ID 11656, then you simply have to access the user ID, and then these details will be fetched for you anywhere in your collection, as long as you're using this collection, environment variable. Okay, so these are few things which I've used for now. The one last thing that we can also do is, let me change this again, simply because it throws error, is running the collections. In your day-to-day work, no one will have time to key in hundreds of APIs and click the send button every time to do your testing. That's not how it works. It's insane. So how do we do that? Then how do we test our, how do we do our testing? It's basically you hold, you see something called run collection, click on the run collection. It shows you all the APIs that is part of this collection. And then it asks you for the iteration, how many times you want to execute this. Sometimes when you're doing some performance testing or load testing, you may have to do some 10, 15 iterations. We increase the number, but in our case, let us keep it 1. Do you want to insert any delay? In our case, it's not required. To the file, I'll come back to you. Let's run and see what happens here. So I run the meetup session, it quickly spins up, and then execute my tests. Anything that is green simply says the test passed. And then if it fails, it shows you why it failed. One of my tests was to check if the response time is less than 200 milliseconds. It is taking more than 200 milliseconds. That's why it's failing. Now, this is a good point for you to take this concept back to your solution architect and discuss with him. Look, we discussed it should be 200 milliseconds, but the test is failing. So the API may need some performance tweaks. And let's see what's happening with the post user. We see here 422, which means an unprocessable entity, which we have come across, which means our data or the details is not unique enough. Is it not unique? I should have saved probably. And Let me repeat the same thing or do the run again. Yeah, this time it passed simply because I had not saved the changes I had made. So it was taking my old details. Now I can see the comprehensive view of the entire execution along with the test status. And this is good enough. You can also see the view summary. Now, one nice part about Postman is also that you can go to monitors and you can set up your own monitors here so that you can track collection every day, execution of your collection every day, and see when it is failing, when it is passing, when it needs some tweaks or some updates, etc. happening. So this is a good place for you to set up the monitor, and it can trigger the test. Let me give. And then what is a collection? Mine is a meetup session. I wouldn't change much of it. Do I need an environment? Yes, there is a need of an environment, which is meetup. And then it asks me when this test has to be executed. So you can run it every day, weekly once. You can choose a day or when you want and the time that you want it to be executed. And then these are some generic details for your email notifications. You can add additional recipients who wants to receive this, maybe your team members, and then just save this. Just a second. Create. So when I create a monitor, so the test will trigger and see what happens. It says unhealthy, which means my test is failing. And we know why my test is failing, because my post request is trying to post the same details again, which is a duplicate record. So my test should naturally fail. So it's my time that I go back and change this test or improve my test. Likewise, this is one of the monitor that I have set up myself over a period of time. My tests have been failing. I have been a bad tester, didn't do my good job of maintaining my tests or improving my collections. And I can see my entire performance over a period of time through this monitor. So this is a good place that you can set it up in your day-to-day activities to keep an eye on your collection. So that's a lot of talking I did. I'm not sure how many of you followed me along with the hands-on, but there is a good opportunity that you can use this April 29th meetup, port this collection and try your hands-on, because I have given all the details as a part of this documentation and what this API do. Now, one thing I would like to tell you is when I have used an environment variable, this is a hint for you to create an environment variable for yourself and then save the value for that environment variable and then use this API to fetch the response, and then you can add the tests for these response. That is a kind of challenge that I have mentioned in here. Don't worry, the solution is also mentioned below and you will be able to get through this. If not, we anyways have more sessions coming in. We can always discuss about it. Okay. So there's a lot of information that I passed to you guys, but do let me know. It's a good time. We still have 6 minutes. We still can do some Q&A sessions. Let me stop sharing. Okay. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'll open the floor. It's just not for me. Anyone who is available in the call can take up the question and answer. Like I said, it's learning together. Feel free to ask more questions. Navneet, bye. Thanks, Suzanne.
Okay, Soumya, Ramesh here.
Hi, Ramesh.
Like, I have, it's a long time. Then how can that will be handled? Like if any API get fail or something like that, take much time. That time what happened? Like,
so if
then all the test cases like below test cases will fail.
Yes. So it basically stops the execution because it is taking a lot of time, and it is a very good point for you to take it back to your development team to tell, hey, it's taking more time, and this is not the way it should be doing, because from a UI, if a developer is waiting for a data to be fetched, and if the data is not rendered within seconds, then there is no point. Anything which is crossing 30 seconds is like a problem. So that should not actually happen. It should be within milliseconds. So it's not just your test, it's a failure for the entire application.
Yeah, right, Soumya. Thank you.
Wow, Krishna is asking a burp suit. Krishna, I'm not expert in the burp suit. I'm really sorry. But because you asked, I'll go try someone from my team or from my security team. I pull them and then I'll try to arrange a meetup for that. I'll make note of this.
Hi, Samia. You hear me? Hello?
Hey.
Yeah. So which one you recommend? API testing or automation Selenium is the best tool?
I first check your level of understanding with regards to the coding. If you know Java, I will say just go ahead, do it with the Selenium, not the Selenium, but the rest assured client, because you find more comfort there. Postman mostly uses JavaScript for the execution, but you are complete new fresher, you have no clue what's happening with regards to API testing, then please use Postman. That's the best tool to start with, and then you can start exploring other options once you get a handle.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, hi Soumya, this is Naveen.
Hi Naveen.
So I completed 1 year in software testing, but for the language I use it to do in Python. So what's your recommendation to grow in my career?
Oh, Python is a very good place to start. If you're in the Python, I would say just go ahead with the same tech stack, do not change, and stick to Robo test automation framework, because it also comes with a Python libraries for testing in Selenium. So just, yeah, one other very important thing in these 14 years that I have learned is, irrespective of which automation tool you choose to learn, just be expert in it, because rest all is just a copy of the same framework. So it really doesn't matter. So just make yourself an expert in one tool, then the rest becomes more easy.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sheikh Akbar. Do you have any more questions for me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which tool is I'm confused a lot, ma'am. Already I spoken but I need which tool is very in nowadays in market, ma'am.
Akbar, is it Sheikh Akbar who's asking me the question?
Yeah, absolutely, madam. Sheikh Akbar.
I'm so sorry, your audio is not so clear, Sheikh Akbar. Can you please repeat the question?
Madam, now audible?
Yes, but you have a lot of disturbance. Is it okay to type your question in here?
Already typed it, madam, in text box.
Yes, please. Nivas, thank you so much. That motivates me to do more of these sessions. Very kind of you.
Madam, hello.
Yes.
Madam, I want some tools, madam. Like RV spoken API, Azira, and Cucumber. Some lot of tools is there. But which tool is best for me? Why? Because I'm fresher.
You're fresher. If you're fresher, then I will always recommend you to start with the JavaScript, because it's easy. It's a programming language with no structure, so it's pretty much easy to pick up with. C++, C#, and Java are very structured programming languages. You may have challenges in understanding the OOPS concept. So what you do is start with the JavaScript. So the nearest tool that will be easier for you is Cypress. So please pick up JavaScript and work along with Cypress. Cypress is just like this. You have everything available in the documentation. You can just follow up, and there are so many free YouTube videos available. Don't spend money on anything. Just go to the YouTube videos, follow the YouTube videos. You'll be able to do it. Just give yourself months. That's more than enough.
Madam, one more question, madam. I have already completed my software testing course also, madam. Like manual.
Okay. Did you do your ISTQB? The chances of getting a job is better with ISTQB, because companies.
Sorry, madam.
ISTQB?
Sorry, madam, I don't know really.
Okay, so
That's
there's
a license to the
application
test.
called, yeah, thanks, Vladimir. Thank you so much. Yeah, Vladimir has mentioned here, it's ISTQB. Just check the website. That's very good start if you're starting fresh as a tester and want to build your career on top of that. So,
Madam, please repeat once again. Which name? Yes.
Are you in the chat channel? It is
Why? Because okay, madam. ISQB. Okay.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Vladimir. Thank you so much. He's given you the link, so you can just use that link.
Okay, thank you. Why? Because I'm doing journey, madam. I'm here in trial. I'm here in trial.
Even in your journey, you joined my session. Thank you so much.
Okay, madam.
Oh, I see you there. Happy journey.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. So, any more questions, or we can call it a day? And see you again on May 7th. It is advertised in my link. You can join. There's a person called Trim who will be joining from Singapore to teach you how to create API. If that's of your interest, please do join there.
Hello. Yeah. Hello.
Thanks, Vinu. I will try.
Yes, Soumya.
Yes.
In the May 7th session, what will be the tech stack that will be followed?
Java Spring Boot. Good question. It's a Java Spring Boot. Yeah.
Okay. Means yeah. Okay. So I was more expecting like Express Node.
Can you please mute that mic?
Can you please keep? So Express Node, I may have to rope in someone who comes from the Node.js background. I can still work it because my team works closely with the Node.js background. So have a look at my meetup session. I'll try to get someone within next month. Most probably it will be Eric. He's good. So yeah, I'll try to arrange something.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Soumya.
Hello.
Hey, Noorjahan.
Yes, ma'am. Hello. So I'm working in one company as a manual tester, and I have started API testing. And I'm working in one project where I'm testing like video calling feature and voice calling, and also like when dating application is there. So I'm confusing like what type of scenarios I could test in that API testing, because normally in normal cases I have tested, but for more scenarios I want some guidance. Like how can I elaborate that?
I definitely can help you, and I can give you more use cases. Just so we don't take a lot of this session time, can I recommend you to just book my time in the mentoring club? We can get together and I'll help you to get more use cases, because then I can take more one-on-one and we can dig deeper into the details and work it. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, sure. It will be very helpful for me.
Sure. You can find me on the mentoring club. You can just type Soumya and then yeah, my name. I'm the only Soumya there. So
can you please message her?
Yeah, it is the mentoring club. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. It's let me try to get the link for you. And not just me. There are many people like me who will be providing a free mentorship. So yeah, you can try to book sessions with multiple people, whomever you feel you can get advice from or some help from.
Okay, thank you. It will be very helpful for me. Sure. I will definitely try this. Yeah. Thank you.
It definitely can work so that I can spend some time dedicatedly with you on one-on-one, and then we can.
Yeah, I was looking for this, like someone will help and we can grow.
Sure. I'm there for that. Thank you. Shrikant, like I said, I don't have a YouTube channel, but then I'll upload it in my personal YouTube space and then I'll make it available. I'll try to post this link in the meetup so you can access the link in the YouTube, or you can just search my name, Soumya Sridharamurthy, in YouTube and get it. Oh, this is very motivating for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your kind heart. So I appreciate it really.
How do I spell your name? Or how do you pronounce it?
Tesfai.
Tesfai. Where are you from?
From Ethiopia, Africa, but I'm working around DC area, so Washington DC.
Oh, wow. How is Washington, DC? How's the weather?
Good. I'm working currently on manual testing, but we are moving to automation testing. So that's why I was looking.
Then
so,
you should start doing with a Postman to start with, and trust me, you can still stay with it. It's not that you will have to change it after a while. That's not what I meant. But if it's the first time that you're starting and you're entirely new to this arena, then start with a Postman until you can gauge the depth of the water. And if you feel comfortable picking up like C# or Java, then you can always change the framework. But
yeah, and that's what I have. That's why I asked you question before. So I have a like Selenium, a little bit background, but we are like I was trying also Python also. That's why. Okay.
Right. Okay. Cool.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's helpful, really.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Vladimir, thank you so much. Yes, I look forward for all of you to be part of my LinkedIn. I would like to connect. And if any of you would like to present something in the meetup, feel free. I can make space for you guys, and then we can again meet up and you can share your journey, your experiences, if anything, of your testing, so that many people can get benefited. All right. So sure, I'll try to post it in the Twitter account. Thank you so much, Mahesh. I will do that. I'll also try to put it in my LinkedIn account, just so if you're there, you can take it from there. Okay, so I think it's a long day. I'll also call it a day. I'll just go have some